Well, good day to you. It is November the 9th. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are. My name is Gary Willing, and I want to welcome you to Search for Signs if you are new, and welcome you back if you have been here before. Now, if you want to know more about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom, about why the Masters and Maitreya are coming back at this time, what does it mean that for you that they're coming back, and that kind of thing, you can get those questions answered by listening to more of my videos. I'm just kidding. But I do think the best thing to do is to investigate yourself for yourself in some way. And you can do that by checking out some of the links that I provided in the description portion of videos, because they take you to websites that give you really good background information. So it's a bit of a tongue twister today for me to say that, but that, they're there for if you want. They're there to help you investigate this information in your own way. So then you can see if there's any truth to it. Now, if you want to join the discussion, post your comment in the comment section. Post your question in the comment section. I might address it or try to answer the question in the next video. You might not like what I have to say, but I'll at least give it a good college try. Now, you can also email me at searchforsigns@mail.com. Now, I want to address every comment that came my way today. I think I can do it and not have the video go too long. But the mask said, "God bless you." I don't know. Did I sneeze? I'm kidding. No, I really do thank you for saying that. You're very, very kind. I'm sorry I was sarcastic, but bless you too. And God bless everyone as well. So I really do appreciate it. Zach Laney, what'd you have to say? YouTube algorithms don't like Donald Trump. So, if what you said is true, then I guess it's true to say that I have something in common with YouTube algorithms now. And I will leave that up to you to interpret what that means, Mr. Zach. I appreciate your comment. All right. Now, John, what do you have to say? Great show, Sir Gary. Well, I haven't been knighted as of yet, or as of the recording of this video, but you can call me Sir Gary, I guess, or Gary, or, oh, Captain, my Captain, Mr. Gary, Mr. Willing. I don't know. There's other names that people call me too. Some of them probably my ex-girlfriends, but we won't get into that right now. Anyway, what'd you have to say? I'm sorry, I digress. But please do some research on the U.S. proxy war with Russia in Ukraine. We are witnessing the same energies that work through Hitler's forces, and much of that seems to be focused on Western propaganda, specifically the big lie approach. So thank you for that, and I am going to check out those videos that you sent me via email the other day, because I'm off today and tomorrow and Friday, so I'd really do appreciate it. I will say this, though. When it comes to the war in Ukraine, and when I talk about the war in Ukraine, I don't know much about the origins of this, or who's responsible for that, or the key players, this, that, and the other. And so I really don't have a clear opinion on it either way. I haven't taken the time to really research that aspect of it. Now, the two things that I talk about in reference to this information in regards to the war in Ukraine, first is the need for peace. I mean, it's Maitreya's biggest priority, is the need for peace. And we can only do that through sharing. Like Maitreya says, without sharing, there will be no justice. Without justice, there will be no peace. And without peace, there will be no future. It could be simpler. But it pertains to the war in Ukraine, like it pertains to any war or any skirmish anywhere, because according to Ben's master, any battle, any skirmish or anything like that, any war, within a country or between two countries, could eventually escalate to the point where a nuclear weapon is involved, and then it would eventually mean the ending of life on this planet. And it could probably escalate a lot quicker than most of us would really want to see happen. But so that's why it's important for humanity to put war behind us forever and become a peaceful people. Like I said, the only way to do that is, according to Maitreya, is to bring about the principle of sharing and share resources between countries. Now, the other part that I talk about in reference to the war in Ukraine is how people in Russia are speaking out against that war, putting their lives at risk, putting their future and their freedom and their lives and their freedom of their family, in jeopardy by doing that. But they're doing it because they believe that it is wrong that Russia is attacking Ukraine. And it has to do with the voice of the people. People are waking up to the injustices in the world. Not so much in the United States as of yet, but around the world, more and more people, peoples are coming together to do these kind of things. It is one of the clear indications that the people are ready to hear what Maitreya has to say, because it will be the people that do the solving of the problems, not the masters or Maitreya themselves, and it will be only done in groups, and that's why I talk about it in reference to that. Now, the video, I did watch a little bit of the video from that Colonel, Richard Black, I think is his name. I'm going off my memory. I'm so sorry. Which isn't always good and can't always be trusted when it comes to details like that. But anyway, you know, and it's not just information about Ukraine. It's information that's coming out about anything these days. You know, we're living in such uncertain times that really the information that comes our way is like quicksand, man. You really don't know what to make of it, or what is true and what isn't true, or what is right and left, or what's coming from this person that should be trusted and that one that doesn't. And so, because we're getting it from all sides on everything. And the information, even though it seems like we have all this information at our fingertips, it doesn't make us any smarter. You know, some instances it's making us dumber so, but it's important to, I think, remain centered, remain calm. You know, I mean, Maitreya did tell me one time, peace always starts from within. You know, he also said on a little sketch, you know, that I talk about from time to time, he said, you know, be at peace and remember to pray, you know, but it's just, we don't know what the truth is. We're alone. We are truly alone in this jungle. And we're trying to make heads or tails of what's going on, you know? And in uncertain times, such as today, and the more uncertainty there is, and the more threat of this, and the more possibility of this danger and everything like this, obviously the more fear that we, you know, perpetuate and have within ourselves. And the danger, the real danger, in terms of spreading information is, are you spreading fear? Are you spreading hope and joy? Now, I'm not talking about just tiptoeing past the graveyard and not being concerned about these things. I'm not saying that at all, but to spread fear is a real danger, because the masters would tell you that fear and joy are equally infectious. They are concerned, they see the problems of the world, they see that the problems must be solved and those kind of things, but they don't have fear about it. You know what I mean? So information that comes in my way that has a measure of fear, I have to try to be objective about and detach from, or I might become afraid of something, you know. But it's important, like I said. But what you're saying about the energies, that same energies that work through the Access powers, of course, yeah. I mean, the people always talk about the Antichrist, and they misinterpret what the Antichrist is. They think it's an individual that hasn't come yet, that they try to label this person as the Antichrist or that one as the Antichrist or whatever, right? And you can get it on all sides, you know, whether it's Maitreya, Donald Trump, Obama, you know, Bill Gates. I mean, they've all come up with their own opinion of who they think the Antichrist is. According to the Ageless Wisdom Teachings, it's an energy, like John is talking about. The energy that flowed through the Access powers of World War I and World War II especially was what the Bible was interpreting and predicting as the Antichrist. It resurfaced again not long after the end of World War II, when it should have been really sealed off to its own domain. It resurfaced again in three more points of darkness: the Zionist movement in Israel, the point of darkness in the then Yugoslavia, now Bosnia, Serbia area, and the third one, which is pretty powerful, is in the Pentagon. And like I talked about in one of these videos, I think this is the reason why we're bringing this up, is that point of darkness in the Pentagon has been influencing every single presidential administration, the foreign policy of the United States, and it could be said, because it's been said by the masters, that the Pentagon is really what's running this country. And so anytime there's any information or any news coming out about a war here and the United States fighting for democracy there, I always go, you know what I'm saying? It's because the Pentagon's been in control, and they use that narrative all the time. They're fighting for democracy. They're the democracy of this people and all this kind of stuff. Are they really? You know? So, and is Putin 100% to blame, or is it the NATO? We just don't know, really, ultimately. And there's a lot of information. Like I said, there's a lot of information you got to sift through to really find the truth for yourself on it. But, you know, but I do thank you for that. I am going to look into those videos, and thank you so much for sharing in the comments. I really do appreciate it. On to something a little more uplifting, hopefully, because Ricardo Pels Wesley, you always, in your comments, every one of your comments have always been uplifting and very hopeful and positive. I really do thank you. I need it today. Anyway, as you mentioned, Gary, this is a transitional period for humanity, from the old to the new. Such a simple truth indeed, but alas, so difficult for many to grasp, this fundamental shift that is necessary if humanity is to progress further along the pathway to a better world for all. Therefore, welcome the arbinger of change gladly. So thank you for that. And that allows me to segue into something that Maitreya said. Not through me. I didn't channel this. You could have read this yourself if you just bought or just picked up a book from the Share International group, The Ageless Wisdom Teachings by Benjamin Creme. But anyway, what did he have to say that I think kind of pertains to what you said? He said, and I quote, "When you see and hear me, you will realize that you have known for long the truths which I utter. These simple truths, my friends, underlie all existence. Sharing and justice, brotherhood and freedom are not new concepts. From the dawn of time, mankind has linked his aspirations to these beckoning stars. Now, my friends, shall we anchor them in the world?" So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to tell everybody about that, Ricardo. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your comments as always. So thank you. Now back down into the trenches. Mr. Good Sleep, what you have to say. Trump was doing lots of peace deals in the United States and stopped that ISIS beheadings on TV every day. Very good job. And there's this little tiny little emoji of a hand giving a thumbs up, which I think is the actual size of Donald Trump's hands. I'm kidding. Democrats and Republicans have been planning Ukraine war since 2010. Bring Trump back, you nuts, LOL. So, truth be told, I do think that maybe not so much the Democrats and the Republicans, but the Pentagon definitely and the United States has been planning, has been working in Ukraine against Russia for quite some time, a lot longer than 2010. It's important, and I'm going to talk about this in a second, but, Trump has done more for peace in the Middle East than any other president in history. He's gotten more things done in the first 4 years of a presidency than any president in history. He's the most popular president of all time. In fact, if he were to run against George Washington or Abraham Lincoln, he would win by 75%. It would be a total landslide shellacking, right? He has done more for civil rights than any person in history. He's done more for Christianity than anyone in history. And he is a stable genius from a long line of geniuses, and we know this because he took an IQ test, and according to his doctors, they said, and I quote, "Sir, nobody has ever answered these questions like you did." Person, woman, man, camera, TV. So anyway. And we know this because Donald Trump all told us how great he is, because that's all he does is tell us how great he is. And any time anybody has any criticism or any kind of opposite way of thinking or anything to do with his illegal activity, it's one of three things. You take your pick. It's either a political witch hunt, it's a hoax, or it's fake news. Does that about sum it up? So anyway, no, I mean, I'm being sarcastic. Obviously, I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm not a Biden supporter either, but I would take Biden over Trump any day, to be honest with you. But, it's, I guess, good that he at least tried, like the other presidents who have tried to broker peace deals in the Middle East. According to Ben's master, really, it will be Maitreya that brokers a true peace deal between those two peoples. That it will really that nobody else can really do it. He knows the long history of those peoples. He knows that it's really an inter-family squabble that's been going on for centuries between this group and that group and blah, 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 blah. He also knows the long history of humanity. And he will be able to speak to both their needs and hopefully bring about a cooperative solution to that problem. It's important to see when it comes to the problem in the Middle East that, for one thing, that true peace in the world will not exist until that there's peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. There will never be peace in the entire world. So it doesn't even have to do with just the Middle East. It has to do with everything. And there's a lot of religious ideologies involved in there that I think are screwing things up too. But anyway, and that need to be looked more objectively, to it. But the long history of humanity, the dark, violent, destructive history of humanity, the crimes that have been perpetrated on other peoples, happen all over the world. Really. This group has enslaved that group enslaved this group conquered that group, moved that group out and took their land and so forth, and then they took it back and so forth. And according to the masters, there's really no way, it's never going to be practical for any group to claim that they have the rights of this land because several thousand years ago, their forefathers had that land. It's not practical because the movements of people, the migrations of people, the wars between people have changed things. That's the history of humanity. It's sad, but it's true. So to claim that just because their ancestors lived there 2,000 years ago or 1,000 years ago, whatever it happened to be, that gives them the right to move back is not practical. It's a crime. But it's also could be said and looked at in a way that this has been going on for a long time. It could also be said that it's almost getting to the point now where the Palestinians will have to look elsewhere because they've taken that land for so long, But any peace deal that the Israelis have put forth to give some land back to the Palestinians, according to Maitreya, has not been a just solution and would not bring long-lasting peace. So he has told the Palestinian leaders when they've asked him, is this something that we should do? He's always told them no. And the only solution that would have worked was the solution of giving some of the Jordanian land that was given by the then King Hussein of Jordan to the Palestinians. But the Israelis took that land too. I mean, it's awful what they've been doing. And it's been a crime and it's unjust. And it's destabilizing peace on this planet, Now, but eventually, to leave it on a high note, peace will be created in the Middle East, but it will only come through the principle of sharing to bring about justice amongst nations. And then it will eventually bring about trust amongst nations. So, but anyway, but it's a problem. It definitely is a problem. When I talk about the divisions of in the world, the political divisions, the economic divisions, I, for some reason, neglect to talk about the divisions between the Israelis and the Palestinians, but that's a big one. You know what I mean? Now, to get on to Trump, okay, so in terms of let's bring Trump back in 2024 or whatever you were saying at the end of that comment, I have to quote Jules from Pulp Fiction. Well, allow me to retort. I think that would be a mistake. I don't know what's headed in American politics over the next 4 years or 2 years or whatever it is now, I guess, but it doesn't look pretty. It would be, I think, very destructive and very dangerous if he were to be allowed to come anywhere close to the White House again, because it was bad enough when he was there. I don't have a problem with people's politics, but at least know a little bit about the facts and the history of politics before you start talking about something, right? And I'm not saying this about you, Mr. Goodsey. I'm just talking about this about in general. There's been this huge interest in politics as of recently, and it's from people who probably weren't involved in politics and looked at politics and studied politics, longer than 5 years. So they think everything kind of started 5 years ago when Donald Trump took office, or 6 years ago or whatever when he was running for office. But it's gone back a lot farther than that, right? And if you just go back and look at this player and watch what happened here and watch some videos about some of the news that was going on at this time, you'll see that actually the Republicans are the ones that are typically the instigators of a lot of political witch hunts. And it's not the Democrats. I'm not saying the Democrats don't do it. And I'm very critical of the Democrats too, don't get me wrong. So I'm not siding with the Democrats on 100% of the time. And I'm not a defender of all things DNC and Biden. Believe me. And I'm not a huge fan of Nancy Pelosi or Hillary Clinton, to say the least. And I think the Democrats are feckless and cowards to a large extent. But if you want to know what a political witch hunt is, don't look at what they did to Donald Trump. They were trying to hold him accountable to the laws that he was breaking. Look at what the Republicans did to Bill Clinton and the Monica Lewinsky affair. That was a political witch hunt. Look what they tried to do with Obama. Those were political witch hunts because they weren't based on any reality. You know what I'm saying? And it did nothing to do with how they governed as a president. Bill Clinton might have been a bad husband, but he's a fairly decent president. I didn't believe everything he said, but I did find him very entertaining, and life was pretty decent when he was president. It wasn't bad. He never came after the Republicans' guns like they were afraid. He never, he didn't become this authoritarian leftist extremist like they were all predicting he would be. The country got along pretty well. In fact, the economy got along a little too well as far as I'm concerned. But, you got to go back and you got to look at some of the key players and some of the history between those two parties. It's not accurate to be as short-sighted as a lot of people are. Now, if you don't trust the left, then I would say that's fine. I don't trust the left either. I don't trust the left media. I don't trust the Democrats. But to say that you would trust Donald Trump 100%, that's just being naive, man. All you have to do is read a tweet and do a little bit of investigation. You see he lies a lot of the time. If you watch a press conference, go back and do a little research and even just look at some of the previous press conferences before that. He contradicts himself all the time. So you really don't know what is the truth or whatever. He is a real danger to the United States, hands down. I think he's the most dangerous man in the United States, to be honest with you, because of his influence and because of his selfishness and because of the fact that he's an idiot and he does not know the law and he doesn't care about the law. He said it himself. He could go and shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and not lose a vote. And he's right. You know what I'm saying? And they apologize for him all the time. It is the most maddening thing to witness in this country, is that. But the Democrats will never hold him accountable because they're cowards. To be honest, he breaks the law all the time. You can watch it. Break the law, break the law, break the law. And they're not holding him accountable to anything. If Obama broke the law, hold him accountable. If Hillary Clinton broke the law, hold them. But they're not. They're a part of the elite. The law doesn't apply to them the same way it applies to us, normal folk, right? But to say that he's being persecuted and in the way that like nobody else has ever been persecuted is just, it's just, if you believe that, you're naive, man, and you're gullible, because that's not the case, man. He is one of the most disgusting criminals that has ever been even close to being in power in politics, to be honest with you. Now, the other thing, too, is, and just go back and listen to a couple of his rallies and see if this is the kind of country you want to live in. He has said if he becomes president again, he will institute the death penalty on drug dealers and human traffickers. Now, up front, you might go, yeah, that's great, man. I hope they do that. That will get rid of the drug problem and the trafficking problem. I think the only way truly to get rid of the drug problem is not to institute the death penalty on the drug dealers. They don't care. They don't care if somebody kills them. They kill each other all the time over drug deals, right? Do a death penalty for the bankers that launder their money. Now that would stop it. I'm joking, but you might say to yourself, I'm not either of those things, so what do I have to worry about? Well, go back and look at some of the things that Donald Trump has done and said, and some of his followers who said, lock her up. She had never been, Hillary Clinton had never been had never been convicted of a crime. And they were talking about locking her up. They accused the Democrats of being child traffickers, which there's no truth to any of that. So they are not concerned with due process, and they're not concerned with the facts. So they can make it up about anybody. Then what do you do? That's the frightening thing. That's the thing that our country was not built on. That's the reason why we have a Constitution, we have the Bill of Rights, we have due process in this country, so somebody can't do those things. So, and if it's not Donald Trump and you're a right-winger listening to this, what if it's a left-winger that does it in the future? Just saying, it could happen. What's good for the right is good for the left. And if you go back and look, both sides do things, so there might be somebody on the left that's a lot smarter than Donald Trump that could pull some of this stuff off if they're not careful. We need to step up as a people and decide what we're really about. And what we're about is human rights, about freedom, but about justice too. And we have to do these things. The United States is in a very precarious place right now. And Donald Trump is the one that seems to have the fuse and the match in his hands. So anyway, I just am very concerned that if he ever gets back into the presidential race, what will happen over the next 2 years, and if he ever decides he wants to be president, whether he won or lost, what's going to happen in this country? Ben's master said in one of the books that I read a long time ago that the United States government that we know of, the democracy is changing, and eventually it'll look much different than it does today. There'll be a group of people that will govern humanity as the president governs today. And I always ask myself, what's going to bring us to the point where anybody's going to want that to be the case, to change it like that? And maybe this is the reason. Maybe we have to go through this perilous time with somebody like Donald Trump in order to see that maybe the system isn't working. Maybe we do need to try something different. But anyway, be at peace and remember to pray. That's what Maitreya said. So I'll have to keep doing that and remind myself of that. Anyway, but thank you very much, Mr. Goodsleep, for your comment. And hopefully I didn't offend you too much. I'm just sharing my opinion too, but I do look forward to your comments and keep them coming. Lenny and Kaluta, what you had to say, you had a lot to say all the time, and I wish I could go through every little thing. I do want to point out, you talked about the Electoral College being expanded. I think it should be abolished, actually. So the Electoral College in this country is keeping two political parties in power. And there's no possible way that an independent or a viable third-party candidate could ever see the Oval Office as president. Never going to happen while the Electoral College is going on. So if you look, and this is my criticism of the Democrats, right? Over the last 30 years, I've mentioned this before because it's true, that historically there's only been one presidential election where a Republican won the popular vote and won the Electoral College vote. And that was George W. Bush's second election in 30 years. But yet we've had 12 years of Republican presidents. But they haven't won the popular vote, right? Imagine if that had happened to the Democrats. And they're the ones that are being accused of cheating in elections. Just saying, I'm just throwing it out there. But the Democrats aren't flipping out about that. Why? I would be. It's like, this isn't fair, man. We need to get rid of the electoral vote because obviously this is not, living up to the will of the people. This is disenfranchising millions of votes by allowing certain key states to decide who is the president. Or in the case of 2000, the Supreme Court deciding it. I mean, it's just, but yet the Democrats don't do anything. Why? Because they know that this is also keeping them in power. So they're both corrupt, very, very corrupt institutions, and they're both getting paid from the same corporations. It's just the Republicans get paid more from those same corporations. Look it up. Biden got money from oil companies just like Trump did. He's just a lot cheaper for them to get around to doing what they have to say about and what they want. But anyway, thank you very much for the question. I appreciate that. Now, lastly, Ren Yusi, which I don't remember you commenting before, so thank you very much for this. Hopefully you listen to this video all the way through. I heard an interview with Benjamin Creme talking about Japan's economy crashing. Is it true Maitreya spoke of this? Yes, he did. He predicted the stock markets would start to crash starting in Japan in the late 80s. And when he made that prediction, if you were around at the time, you probably wouldn't have believed that it would come true because the Nikkei, which is the Japanese version of the Dow, was at the highest it's ever been. And then it started to tumble and tumble and tumble to a point where I think it lost like 75 or 80% of its value. So it was crashed. And it caused other markets to crash. Here in the United States, we had, was it Black Monday in October of 87, 88, something like 89. I can't remember exactly when it was. But anyway, around that time, it caused it to crash. Now, here's the thing. This is what also happened, is the Cold War ended. And there was an energy that was used to build the arms race between the United States and the then Soviet Union. And when that collapsed, that energy had a momentum to it. And it left the arms race and it went around, Maitreya said it spun around the world several times and it found a new womb. And it went into the markets. And not long after the ending of the Cold War, the markets started to take off. And they went from what would be insignificant now to really being the blind market forces leading the blind all over the world, whether they're average people or world leaders or countries. And it happened within a matter of 20 years or something, 10 years-ish or so. And it was all because of that energy. And then in 2000, if you remember what happened then, they started to go up and down, up and down, up and down. And it looked like they were about to collapse because it was teetering on the edge back and forth. And then in 2008, they eventually went down. Now, had they been allowed to just collapse, it would have done exactly what Maitreya said. It would have brought humanity to its knees, but also to our senses. And then we would have said, we're not living the way that we should be living. We should be living more true to who we are as a family and start to institute things like the principle of sharing, bring about peace, start to look at economic systems that are more just and those kind of things. But it built it back up again. And both presidents, Obama and Trump, took credit for the economies taking off the way that they did, but it had to do with the lords of materiality and their activity that allowed that to happen, according to the masters. And Ben's master said something around the 2008 downturn in the economy, that if it does not go all the way down to nothing or, collapse, that it would go to even higher highs, which it did. Now, here's what we have to look forward to, unfortunately, because he said if it does do that, the collapse will be even worse, and the pain and the suffering on humanity will be even greater than it would have been if it had just been allowed to collapse, 14 years ago. So we got that to look forward to. But it will bring humanity to its senses. But up until that point, I think it's rather doubtful that we'll ever change our ways, because our world leaders, our corporations, the people that run those corporations are making an insane amount of profit. So why would they want to change things? They think they can keep doing this the way that they're doing it. They have visions of going to different planets based on capitalism and commercialization. They have a vision of commercialization and capitalism being around forever, thousands upon thousands of years from now, being the exact same as it is today, where the elite have all the money and everybody else is suffering and barely making ends meet or literally starving to death. They think that system can keep going the way it's going. The masters would disagree and say, no, it's collapsing. And in not too long, it's going to collapse totally. And it's going to be hard on a lot of people, if not everybody. But it will wake humanity up to the need that we need to start looking and living as one humanity. So that's ultimately what we have to look forward to. Anyway, but thank you very much. Love you guys. Thank you, everybody who commented. And like I said, it gave me something to talk about in this video. I look forward to more comments and more questions in the future and putting up more videos. You guys take care. Have a great day. Stay safe. As always, peace out. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.